this has got, I've mixed my colour for my darks in my Skye. And the darks in the Skye are going to run directly into the darks in the headland. If you look at any Skye, I always try to, what happens with landscape painting, or specifically seascape painting, where you have a dominant horizon, is you get this awful line across your composition. And I'm constantly looking at ways to stop that. You'll notice at the moment that there's absolutely no hard edges. Crucial to the way that I paint in a kind of loose style is I won't paint any hard edges, or very, very few hard edges. I'll keep the edges nice and soft until the very end, where you can. It's much easier to harden a soft edge than it is to soften a hard edge, especially when the paint's dry. So I'm just getting an idea of what tone that is going to be, and I've not drawn in the individual peaks, because the way I'm thinking of this is the cloudscape behind is going to overlap, so you're not going to see the whole of the horizon. It's going to feel like this heavy weight of the cloud is really pulling down on this horizon. So I'm not going to have definition on the whole of the headland here. I also have some nice effects with splattered medium across the initial layer, so I want to keep it nice and transparent in places to accentuate that. Cover up the bits that don't work, reveal the bits that do. Okay, even as early as this, I'm going to complement that colour, because I don't want to put anything. So the reason being that you only see a colour as being purple or red or something like that, because there's a colour next to it that isn't as purple or red. So this early on, I'm going to set the complement to purple to judge how I'm getting on with the purple. And I need another palette knife. So I'm going to use a little bit cadmium yellow, because it's nice and opaque. Any yellow. Yellow is the lowest chroma colour, and that means that it takes a lot of paint, it takes a very little amount of paint to prevent it from being yellow. You put a tiny bit of blue and it's as green as you can imagine. And that's because of the low chroma, it gets dominated by other colours, red having the highest chroma. The different colours in your tubes will have higher sort of dominance levels, if you like. So, so when you're mixing, always gradually mix in the stronger of the colours, which is what I didn't do at the start with the Prussian blue. Then I don't always keep to the rules. One thing I like to play on is equal values, complementary colours to get luminosity. Don't ask me why it works like that, it just does. I just found that it works like that. This is a little bit light, right enough, but I like to start light and then go darker, because when I'm glazing in colour, the technique of glazing works and the basis that I like to think of green when explaining it. A really vivid green could be obtained by adding yellow behind and then a glazing layer of green on top. Now you might think, well, you could put blue on top, but blue absolutely dominates the yellow because it's a much higher chroma. So to get a really vivid green, glazed green on top of, glazed transparent green on top of an opaque yellow, and the light will go through the transparent colour, bounce off the opaque colour behind it, back through the transparent colour, and we see it as a nice vivid colour rather than a dead, boring colour that we just see as an opaque colour. So I'm going to put this here. And we can see straight away that that's jumping out. That is because it's completely opposite colour to the purple. So let's just see how it works. My light source is here, so I'm going to try and... It's not pink enough. So I'll use titanium white instead. I use a soft mixing white to mix my colours, but with yellow. If you need it really opaque, you want to use titanium white. Soft mixing white just isn't as harsh on your colours, it doesn't go all chalky. Like sometimes titanium white can do. A little bit of titanium white just brightens completely out the paint, but soft mixing white, like a zinc white, is a little bit easier. Now I'm going to be glazing over this, so I'm also going to add some impasto medium to that mix. In oil painting you have the fat on thin principle, where you want the layers behind to dry quicker than the layers above. Stop the cracking. Okay. I'll use blending brushes, large brushes to blend colour from the start. It's just to keep the edges soft. You don't want to go to town too much on it right the way through the painting, or you flatten it all and you'll destroy all the brushwork that you do. But at the start, when you want to keep your edges really soft, you're going to want to use that brush to blend. Now what I'm going to do with this headland here, I know the rough shape of it, I know it goes kind of like this, but it's got details right the way through it. But there's going to be glazes going on top of this, which will slightly darken it from the cloud cover behind it. To differentiate it, and you can see here the cloud's a little bit lighter than the headland itself. But as I'm adding my paint, I'm going to add a little bit of reflection. There's going to be rays kind of coming down, but also this way as well, to stop someone's attention just dropping off the edge of this side here. I want to bring attention in here, so possibly even hide the light source behind here, and I'm going to try and sort of direct the sunlight down that way, which is probably going to be a little bit better. I think we'll do that actually. Which means that if the sunlight starts shafting around this way over this hill, it's going to light up a section of the water around here. the moment what my work is about just now is about this thing called a halation. And halation just means a halo of light around the light source. It's normally a term used in photography to describe a kind of blowout of the lens, as you can imagine. But if the light is very warm, then what it does is just warm up the colour around the light source. So even though this light source won't light that cloud necessarily, the light will come through it at parts that the cloud is transparent. But the halation and the glare of the light will bleed through near the light source. What it can do is just make sure that your light source really feels warm, which is what I'm trying to do to complement against the cool colours of the headlamp. Another good thing about having it on pencil is just squirting it straight onto the canvas, like that. Stops you being too precious about it. Okay, so I'm quite liking that colour. I'm quite liking how the beneath layers are actually stopping it from becoming boring. There's a bit of texture coming through it. And as soon as the yellow's on now, we can now judge all the other colours independently of each other. All looked a bit flat. Now we've got a full spectrum of colours. Because we've got both sides of the colour wheel, not because we've got represented every colour, there's not very many blues here. But we've now got the full spectrum of colours, and we've got some kind of a balance. We've got a battle happening between the cools and the warms. We've got a battle happening between the yellows and the purples. When a colour lightens, it also brightens. Does anyone know what I mean by that? How to brighten a colour as well as lighten it. If you're painting something simple and tonal, like a sphere, say you're painting a blue sphere, you wouldn't just lighten the highlight on the sphere with soft mixing white. You would add the colour closest to yellow on the colour wheel to brighten it, i.e. you would add yellow to brighten it. But if it's blue, the colour nearer yellow is green, so you would add a little bit of green to brighten the blue. And that's what happens when a sky grades from pure blue, like an ultramarine blue at the top, it goes through to a cobalt or a greeny blue to the bottom. And that's the sky brightening up as well. I don't know if there's atmospheric conditions to play there as well, but a red really brightens when you just get a wee bit orangey. So if you're painting a red pepper or a tomato, add the yellow in the highlights. Okay.